Of experts in automotive who talk about the problems. The AutoHub show is all about solutions. Ready for the solutions? Let's get this masterclass started live right now.
If you look at the last 4 years, Ian, we've answered 41 million phone calls for dealers over the last 4 years with our AI platform. We've also handled over 150 million text messages. And so when you look at just those raw numbers, that's a 4 to 1, 3.5, 4 to 1 text to phone call. So I don't know. Here's what I can tell you, though. I believe that the customer wants to be met where they are presently. If that is text, voice, video call, if they want to be engaged and engaged instantly.
I've been fortunate enough to be using Numa since square one, but my opinion, I like to meet the customers where they are, because if I choose my preference in terms of how I want to communicate with people, I'm going to eliminate a large portion of my potential customers. The customer calls in from the outside. There doesn't have to be a person on the other side of the conversation, and it will be a transcribed, recorded transcription of the message, which is important, and it's real time, 365 days a year. So we don't lose anything. The customers that prefer the phone and the customers that prefer the text may be two different people, but the nice thing about like Numa as an example is you got both of those people in one spot.
Hey, I'm Vince Delmonico, General Sales Manager with Cruise Ford Lincoln. Larry Feldman came out and did one of our training courses. Absolutely incredible. I sat through the course myself. The engagement that our salespeople gained from it, the excitement that he brings, it was a new way of looking at things that we're already doing and how we can improve them. Love it. It's literally the best thing since sliced bread.
My name's Fareed Ahmed. I'm the founder and CEO of DSMA. So why should you use DSMA to sell your most valuable asset? The answer is very simple. It's our unparalleled approach to our clients' needs and satisfaction. Remember, DSMA, we're real people doing real deals.
Meta, Instagram, social, and your team is still waiting for ups like it's 1999. Let's be honest, your market isn't watching TV commercials, they're double tapping and engaging with your competitors on social media posts. People are shopping these days for cars and servicing their vehicles in between watching cat videos. That's where we can help. Retail Resilient is the go-to authority for social selling in the car industry. Whether you're a new car franchise dealer, an independent, a buy here, pay here, a broker, a dealership owner or manager, we have something for you. Remember, when your lot is quiet, it means your social media is not loud enough. Check us out at retailresilient.com so we can retarget you on our social media feeds.
And good morning. So we have actually two guests I don't think we've had before, and two that we've had all the time. And we have our newest, which I think is Joe. I don't think I've seen Joe before. I'm not sure, Scott, if I've met you before. Anyway, I generally like to go in order by appearance. So I'm going to go ahead and start with Joe. So Joe, welcome to the AutoHub show. If you haven't been here before, today's topic is about technicians. And I know it's really easy to find technicians in 2026. I've heard that from every dealer I've talked to. So I don't think there's any interest in this topic, actually. So I'm a little shocked. But anyway, it is what it is. Please introduce yourself and answer the following question. Why is it so hard to find techs in 2026? I was just kidding on my comment there. Go ahead, Joe.
Well, thanks, Ian, and such a pleasure to be here. So, I'm under the rocks and up in the clouds and chasing around in car shows, you name it. I've lost all my hair chasing all these technicians. But it all goes to a simple fact of, the old Oldsmobile advertisement. This is not your father's Oldsmobile. Well, this is not your father's workforce. So that's one of the most important parts that you can keep in your mind. We do have technicians out there. It's just not like we used to have. And, we've been, I was a founder of Act Auto Staffing, and how I got into this was I worked for a large dealership that got bought by a consolidator, and my Ford representative came to me and he said, you always come to the Parts and Service Club meetings with resumes because you've hired as many people as you want and you still have more resumes. Why don't you start helping me help Ford dealers find technicians? And that's how I started this in 1998. And it grew into, doing my regional area in the Tampa Bay area, and then it expanded and continued along there. It wasn't very long before I was getting phone calls from dealers all around the country, as well as independent shops, etc. So we've been at it for a while, and we like to say it's not our first rodeo. We've got a lot of research on all the items that work and don't work in our opinion. And our opinion's free, so you know what it's worth. And so that's a little introduction. So take it from there.
So why do you think it's so hard?
There's two reasons. One, there's less of them. And the reason why there's less of them is reason number two is because it's just not an attractive component to bring people in. And, there's the NPS scores that have been done by Carlisle, by ASC, etc. And each and every year they're showing that it's less and less desirable for people to advise other people to get into the industry. That makes a big difference. And the other thing is that cars are getting way complicated. You and I were just talking about that in the very beginning, but things start happening, and we also have all these components that make it more difficult, like ADAS and some of the others. So it's tough.
Fantastic. Thanks for that. Scott from Sonic, tell us more about you, what you do, and what do you think on the tech front? I got a comment too from Jeff Daniel. There are lots of techs out there, but you need to be involved and constantly connected with the feeds, tech schools, etc. That's his 10 cents. Go ahead.
Well, I appreciate it. Yeah, someone had once told me not too long ago that business is real simple. It's math and people, and the math part is easy. It's throughput, productivity, billable hours. The people part is always the challenge because you've got to change a mindset. You've got to convince people that this path is the right path to take. And I think to Joe's point, it started with me back in high school when I was told there's a couple of paths that I could take. I was told I wasn't college material, so I might want to join the military or learn a trade. And if you think about the way the society was looking at trades for the last 30 plus years, it was always a second class or second rate path. Ironically, we all know that that's very, very untrue. Some of the most successful people that I've known since I left high school have been folks that went into the trade, opened their own shops, who have since retired or sold their shops for millions of dollars. So there's a society shift that needed to happen and needs to happen. That's the first thing. But it's hard, to Joe's point, is that there's fewer people because it's not a path that people deem to be a real solid one to earn a great income. And the tool side of it is a piece of it. Obviously, there's a lot of pieces to it. That's one of the pieces to the puzzle on how we kind of right this ship. But to who I am, Scott Saxton, Director of Business Development. I also manage the inside sales team. So I've had my hands over the last 10 years of Sonic in every segment that we sell in. So aviation, automotive, manufacturing, distribution. I spent the first 2 years of my career with Sonic in trade schools on campuses Monday through Friday. So I have a soft spot in my heart for the trades. I wish I had taken that path. I went the military path, but I'm not gonna hate that I did that. But I do wish I had learned a trade because I was the kind of guy that was driven enough where I would have opened my own shop or done something with it outside of working for somebody.
Thanks for that. And thanks for your service. Sandy, what do you think on yourself and why is it hard to find tradespeople? I agree that you probably should have trained more, but anyway.
Well, Ian, thanks for having me.
Yeah.
And hello, everybody. It's really nice to meet the three of you. And I'm Sandy Zanino. My company is Innovative Auto HR. I also do some work with ACS Automotive. So as far as why I'm in agreement with everything that I've heard so far about why it's so hard to find techs. I think that as an industry, we have not done such a great job attracting talent. In particular, right now, my focus, Ian, we've talked about this, right? Like my focus is about reaching, I want to bring the good news to pre-emerging and emerging talent of all the many career paths, including, in service, that automotive holds. And because kids just don't know. They're largely unaware that they can make a great living without incurring great debt, right? Although I think that there's a lot of, like I just found out that, what's the school that UTI, I think, that works with Ford, actually. They have, it's like $60,000, $70,000 to get through their tech program. I was like, what? And so I think that part of it is the communication about really how great this industry is, and communicating that to the kids and their parents, as well as they're growing up, because this is something that's really I'm passionate about, because I do research on people and this and that, and in less than 10 years, our the workforce will be made up of 80% millennials, Gen Z, and Gen Alpha. So we have some other problems too. We have to take all this knowledge and skill, and we have a transfer challenge as well. We need to figure out anyway. But just to the one question, why is it so hard? I think that is a big part. I don't think there's one answer to it all, but I think that is a big part of it.
Well, thanks for that. I was talking to the West Virginia Dealers Association, and they have an interesting program around paying for tools for technicians as long as the technicians stay in West Virginia for a period of time. And I think that's a great way to attract technicians for dealers, but also for that dealer association to maybe get involved with the local government and training schools. So I think that's a great way to look at it. But I am hoping to get more details on that from the organization. But I heard this through the grapevine. Peter, what do you think?
Well, I think everybody was right on point. The biggest challenge, I think, is the perception that having a job as a technician is not a good job. And I love fixed ops. I spent a lot of time there in my life, but we have to change that perception a little bit too, where the parents are like, "Oh, you don't want to go into that." It really is a great career. I think one of the biggest challenges dealers are facing is they're not doing enough to recognize their staff. And we talk a lot about this thing called technician retention, keeping the technicians, putting together ways to recognize them, make them feel better. One of the things Scott talked about in his tool program is phenomenal, and Ian mentioned as well, but having a tool program is an incentive. We've worked on a couple different programs. And the sad part is, as desperate as dealers are to get more technicians, they're not willing to take the steps they need to do it. And that's where my problem is. And I'm just going to be a little direct with this. I worked with a lot of dealers, and I presented to them, hey, there's a great opportunity where you can give these young kids coming out of tech school, give them the incentive to come work for you by providing them tools. The one thing these guys need is tools. You give them an incentive. The big publicly traded companies, dealer groups, they understand all that. If I'm a small dealer and I'm competing with an Asbury, and Asbury has an incredible recruiting program to get technicians where they're giving them tools, they're paying for part of their school. How do I compete with that? Because I don't have the public money. But you've got to start taking those steps to give the technicians a reason to come with you, come to your store. Tools is a great way. And I think someone mentioned that you have to stay with the dealership for 2 years. What a great way. Now you got the people locked in with you for 2 years to get their tools, but they have to make the effort. They have to be willing to say, you know what, I'm going to dedicate some of my budget to getting these technicians, and I'm going to work on treating them better, building a better environment, recognizing them, because they are the core. And in my opinion, they're the future of our business. Car sales, they keep making our margins thinner and thinner, but fixed ops is where the profit is.
100%. We got Jeff Daniel had a comment, 17 years on the local college automotive board. consists of the only dealer represented in the local market. We have lots of local dealers who have never darkened the doors of a college. So perhaps that's an issue. Also, females are more than capable and have a chip on their shoulder to prove it. We have several. So there's another option. We also had a comment from Katie saying hello to Sandy. But next question, what have you found works to find tax? I mean, obviously we know it doesn't work. And I guess we can steal a little bit from Jeff, but why don't we start with Scott? I mean, what have you found works in your neck of the woods?
Well, I wish we had more than an hour, Ian. There's a lot to unpack here with this, but I'm going to share two things that have worked, and one of these is going to go back to something that Sandy and Joe mentioned, which is awareness. So the first thing is making people, parents, kids aware. And maybe there's something that exists in the automotive world. I don't know if you guys have heard of Choose Aerospace or not, but Choose Aerospace is a not-for-profit that does this exact thing on behalf of the aviation industry, because they're having the same challenges as everybody else is. So creating something where there's awareness that starts in junior high or earlier, down to elementary school, say, hey, this is actually not only a viable path for you, but this is an exciting path to take as far as a career. So that's the first thing. The next example I'll share, and we do business with large groups like Mile One, Lithia, and a few others, but I want to mention a smaller, let's say less than 10 rooftop group, Alan Turner Auto Group, Southeast. So he's got a few dealerships in Alabama. He just acquired, I think, the Lynch Auto Group or some Lynch rooftops in the last couple of years. He started something when he acquired the Auburn Hyundai location, which was struggling. And I know because I live in Auburn, and I knew it was taking 30 to 45 days just to schedule a service with our vehicle. And to fast forward to a couple of years from that date, we went to one day. I could schedule a service the next day. And what he did is he said, listen, I'm going to hire people off the street, give them a basic aptitude test, make sure they have some kind of aptitude and they want to come to work. He hired an instructor, opened up 5 days to teaching apprentices how to do basic stuff. And they used a lot of the cars that were going to auction and stuff so that people, they weren't messing up customer cars. But he literally built a school in his dealership, added some lifts, added some bays, and took people off the street. So you could either go to school for a couple of years and pay to go to school, or you can come to school at his dealership, get paid while you're learning, and then you get a tool set at the end of your program as you go into being a flat rate or say a C-level tech.
I got a podcast I'm supposed to be on.
That was one of the things. Larry, of course.
Classic Larry.
You gotta mute your mic, Larry.
No. First, I want to get this off my chest. Sandy and I spend a lot of time talking about how incompetent dealerships are. It's got nothing on the Augusta airport. My planes were on time. I got a big job, and the lady said they're cleaning the car. We'll have it in a minute. Well, that was 40 minutes ago. Now they're telling me they don't know when the cars are coming. So luckily, I got a cool taxi driver, but it just seems like remember Diogenes looking for an honest man? It just seems we're all looking for people that just do their job and smile at you. Seems to be in short supply. Other than that, I'll shut up, which is not easy for me to do.
No worries. Thanks, Larry. Go ahead.
Yes. So getting back to that, I think that's a path. I don't think it's the only path. I think it's a path you can take. But getting into some self promotion with tools. One of the things you can do is create an incentive program that it's attractive enough that young folks want to come in and do this without worrying about having to go into debt. When I came to work for Sonic 10 years ago, I didn't have to provide my laptop and monitors and chairs and desks. Everything was provided to me. I know that mechanics should have tools, and I'll never say that they should not own their own tools, but that's not the best way to start them out. Get them going, let them start making some money, let them learn the trade, and then they can start investing into the tools.
Okay, thanks for that. Joe, what do you think? What's that? What have you found works?
Well, a couple of things. First of all, I'm going to be an advocate, and then I'm going to be a contrarian. So the advocate is that, yes, that helps. And as an example, I wrote an article not too long ago that said and everybody should, when they get a chance, go to LinkedIn to my my page and read the article about technicians, the shortage of technicians. There is a canary in the coal mine. But one of the things that it starts talking about is to get into this business, it's what I call the 15-15-15. Costs you at least $15,000 in education, $15,000 in tools, and you get paid about $15 an hour when you start. So right off the bat, you're missing a lot of incentive there, because we all have Mr. Google or Mr. AI that when you ask them and say, how much can I make when I go into being an automotive mechanic, it's going to disclose that on there. So that's hard to start, but the Sonic program is very, very good as far as helping with the tool part. Now, here's the contrarian part. Unfortunately, we hash through these people, we wash them out like they're chewing gum. The other day, I was on a webinar with Mr. Johnson, the new ASE president, and he said we have got to do something about 60 to 70% of young technicians that have less than 24 months in it leave the industry. And once again, that's the information that technicians are not advising their sons and daughters or their friends to get into it, because it's tough, it's hard. So essentially, my experience is this: you really have two types of technicians. You have the ones that have a knack for it. They know what they're going to do. They're either going to be a B or an A level, and they're going to make some decent money. I actually have recruited some technicians that are making over $200,000 a year. But that takes a very special person that knows what they're doing and how they're doing it, plus a very supportive shop to keep them going.
Thanks for that.
But then most of them fall into the C and D level, and most of them want to have just enough skills to be able to pay their bills, keep everything going, and that's all. They don't want to kill brain cells to try to get up in skill levels and so on. And the reason is that they've seen, and I talked to a lot of shop owners that were former dealership technicians that tell me this. I became a master, and the next thing you know is I had all of the vibrations and the warranty stuff and so on. And what would happen? Lo and behold, the guys that were lower levels were getting all of the gravy work. So they go off onto their own and have their own shop just because the system has treated them so bad. So there's a lot of things that are there. Now, how to get them? That's one of the things that you really have to talk to them about. And I don't know if you folks have seen the survey that Wrenchway did. It's an excellent one, and I highly recommend, because Jay put that together along with ASC, about what technicians want and what they don't want. And one of the surprising things is, the most important things, and this kind of goes to what Scott's talking about with tools, is the specialty tools. And that the shop needs to have those and have an organized way to keep them up. Because I was just having lunch with a technician just the other day, and he said, Joe, he said, when I worked at a big dealership, and he said, I needed a specialty tool, I'd go to the parts department, they'd say, well, Billy Bob's got it. Well, next thing you know is you're chasing Billy Bob. Well, I thought I put it back, but I didn't, and so on. And he said, I went to a smaller shop just because specialty tools are so important that I've got to be able to, even if I need it, I can look around my shop and see it and come get it. And there's so many dealerships that don't really pay that much attention. And once again, that came right out of the ASE studies. So that's an important part. Of course, the other important part is going to be that once you look at those two types of technicians that I described, you can't take usually your C and D level guys and throw them into flat rate, because that's when I get phone calls all the time or emails from technicians that said, man, I've spent 45 hours and I got paid 35, 4 weeks in a row. This just doesn't do it for me, and so on. So that's the other thing, in order to not only attract technicians, which is to say, we really have our specialty tools ready and set up, but also what pay plan fits you. Of course, we've thrown so many technicians into flat rate. And when you look at the survey, once again, back to Wrenchway's survey, the least desired pay plan is flat rate. Most of them want some type of hourly plus production bonus. So there's a lot of square pegs trying to go into round holes. And that's important. And when I talk with a dealership that calls me and says, help me recruit technicians, a lot of times I have to go through what it is that they offer, how they offer it, and say, actually, you're not probably going to find technicians because you're out of date so much with respect to that.
Fair enough. So we got to move on, but thanks for all that. So if you're going to check out the Wrenchway study, it's ASC, highly recommend. I got another comment from Jeff too, actually. Tools need to be part of your hiring strategy. And most importantly, train them to retain them. So I agree with that 100%. Larry, you recruit a lot of technicians. Looks like he's talking to someone in the car. So we're going to go ahead with Sandy. Sandy, you look at obviously this in a lot of ways, because you also specialize in compliance in other areas. What do you think on, an issue that we hadn't really talked about, but how to pay technicians? What's your thought there?
Ian, I'm glad you brought that up, because Joe, I think that is a really interesting point. And I think the challenge might be, because technician pay, flat rate, you're exempt from overtime. So now we're talking about the boring crap that I actually love. But that as soon as you start talking about it, so I won't talk about it too much, right? But it's about the work that is done. So lube techs can't be paid flat, or shouldn't be paid flat rate, because they don't do work that qualifies them for the overtime exemption, right? Your A, B, whichever way you do it, your higher level technicians, they qualify for flat rate. However, there are creative ways to do everything. I would just, if you're going to do that, because if that is what techs want, that's what we need to figure out how to give them, right? Because I think it's super important to find, not to just imagine what you think they want. We must ask them. So I'm very interested in the Wrenchway survey, because that is really important. And I've talked to a lot of service managers, and the ones like Jeff. I love Jeff Daniels, right? Like what works is taking time to find out what works in your area. And that, I think, sometimes becomes the challenge, because we're all in that 30-day cycle, and it's so fast paced. CMA, I'm actually presenting with Beth Lucchese at WIA about some of the amazing things that CMA does. Beth, this is what she does for her job, right? Is outreach to young people, helping to create apprenticeships. So far, we're talking about removing barriers, but we have to find out what the barriers are for the people that we want to hire. And the other thing that I'll say, because I want to make sure everybody has time. The other thing I'll say that I've said over and over is that if you have employees, that's how many recruiters you actually have. Because if your employees aren't telling, Joe said this, I think, or if they're not telling their friends and family to come and work with them, you should find out why, and it may be for different reasons, and then figure that out. Because That's what I think about that.
Thanks, Matt.
Sandy, I got a question for you, Sandy. I love that idea. I love that idea that recruiting. What do you think? Have you ever heard of any dealers that actually will give a bonus
Yes.
if somebody refers a friend and their friend comes to work for them? What do you think about that idea?
I have known many. And the fact is, if people are not being treated right, that $500 bonus is not going to matter. I have seen them unutilized over and over and over again. Probably because we haven't gone back to, I love this industry so much, right? I really do. One of the things I see that we do is that we try and slap Band-Aids. We put a tourniquet on something, but what we're trying to treat is the symptom instead of finding out what the cause is and go there, if that makes sense. So I have seen those things. I've seen a lot of things, right? Some that work, and there are dealers who do it, right? But they're the ones that really take the time, because it's a process, right? You can't start it tomorrow and then suddenly think you're going to have 25 employee referrals. It's a process. So
And I think part of it is that because I think people try it and then they forget to promote it and forget to talk about it. You know, the cost of losing a technician is unbelievably high. And I think as a dealer body, they need to be spending more time taking better care, like you talked about, of the technicians, but also reminding them every couple of months, hey, we're looking to hire, we've got an empty bay. And if you bring somebody, but I don't know, honestly, I don't know if $500 is enough. I mean, when you think about what the value a technician can bring to the dealership, I think they may want to step up their game and make it $1,000 or $2,000. You bring an A tech, you get this price, you get this, and basically make it where it's a little bit more of an incentive to give those people to think about it. Wait a second, I get one of my buddies to come over here from Bob's Ford over there, and he comes over to the Chevy store, and he's going to make he's making more money, but I'm going to make $2,000. I'm going to be pushing my friend pretty hard to come over.
yeah, I don't disagree with you, honestly, and that was just a number that I pulled out. But I don't care what amount of money is. I'm not telling my friend who I care about, I'm not going to make their life miserable for $2,000 or $5,000.
And Sandy, I'd like to get your opinion on this. One of the things that we do is we've got many apprentice lube tech tire techs. So these people have been in it now in that 24-month deal, and they're still sticking with it. And they have some of their tools. So they're with there. And to me, just like the comment that Ian read just a while ago about dealers not going to the schools and so on, it's a lot easier to go to a database where you've got entry-level people that are already in the industry, that have already kind of gone through that 24 months, and they're still sticking with it. And that's I would think a better venue, but I want your opinion on that.
Well, the first thing I'm going to say is that 24 months as a lube tech is too damn long. Sorry.
That's where you're going to take me back to, my buddy. That's where you are, right? Perfect.
Just mute him, Ian.
That's all good.
That is too long, right? Like one of the barriers that I feel like really needs to be removed is the time from lube tech to master tech.
Well, right. And I'm talking about apprentice tech too as well. So
apprentice, I'm calling it a
possible C-level guy.
Right. It's the
person, I should say.
There's some that path, and it depends on what manufacturer you're working with. But that path is too long. I was actually at NADA. I met a young woman, and I think it was VW, 18 months, and she was a master technician. Now, there's another higher level of master tech, right? So we got to get creative about it. That's the first thing.
I'd also agree if you got a problem with retention, obviously you want to focus on that, but more importantly, and there's another comment from Jeff, does a doctor have to pay for his own scalpel? Why does the entry-level tech have to? So I thought that was really interesting. Right. Larry, can you talk? You want to unmute and give us your 10 cents on your... Go ahead.
So, every service manager needs to be sent a copy of an old blues song by Johnny Taylor called It's Cheaper to Keep Her. The amount of money that they lose by losing these people. Joe was talking earlier about, when they, how the A and B techs get punished by how they treat. Joe, that's all management problems. That's not tech problems. That's not being smart enough to realize these are my people and they're important. And if I keep them happy, I don't have to call Larry Feldman. Luckily, Joe, I'm looking at another vacation home because I'm counting on their incompetence, and they're realizing that these are their best, most valuable assets, and they ignore them, neglect them, or treat them stupidly. It's just real simple. Listen, but Joe, it's to make you guys all feel better, and lady, it's endemic in our industry. You got salespeople that would never think to call their customers or follow up on it or send them a Christmas card. We don't appreciate that these people are not annoyances, they're annuities. We need to keep them close. We need to keep them happy. And if we don't keep our employees happy, they're never going to keep our customers happy.
Well, and that's why everybody needs to read that article I put up on LinkedIn about that, there's the canary in the coal mine, because it goes through a lot of studies that I've done. I have a gigantic database that I can query people's opinion, etc. And it talks about what it is that blows these people out of the water. And until we stop, it's not going to get any easier. It's going to just continue to be harder.
Joe, I appreciate you and everybody else. I'm going to look at that wrench where I got to jump out, get in my hotel so I can get to the dealership. Everybody stay safe and stay healthy, and thank you.
Thanks, Larry.
Well,
So, Scott, obviously attracting is one thing, retaining is something else. What do you think on the retention side? What have you found works for you at Sonic?
Okay.
Well, there's obviously the simple thing of using tools, and that is an incentive. Hey, stick around for 2 years and you get the tools. You own the tools at the end of the 2 year, right? But I think going back to what the point that Sandy was trying to make when Peter talked about this bonus is, how about you just create an environment, one that people don't want to leave because there's a people-centric mindset there. You take care of your people, they'll take care of the mission. You create a culture that's so good that people, you don't really need. And Peter, listen, I'm not saying that some kind of a bonus is not attractive. It'd be great to have an environment at work where you can't stop talking about how much you love your dealership that you work at, how well they take care of you. And then if the dealership wants to throw you $1,000, bonus because you referred somebody, and it's, I want to go back to something, and it's almost more a question than it is anything else, because I don't understand it. I come from a world where I work directly with Amazon and Honeywell and in these large companies, and even in the aviation space, where an aviation hangar, they know exactly what every square foot of real estate in a hangar generates in revenue. So how is it that so many dealerships in groups miss this understanding of what a empty bay costs them on a monthly basis, but yet they know, let's say it's $20,000 a bay per month generating revenue. And I'm talking about gross revenue after paying a technician. If that's the case, why are they so opposed to making investments into tools or other programs? One, in providing a pathway for these technicians. I think that goes to Sandy's point earlier, where she said that she had a young lady who went to Master Tech in 18 months. They not only they want to know where they can make money, that they're going to be in good hands and a good culture, but they also want to know that there's a pathway that if they stick around and they do the work and put forth the effort, they can be here, right? Whether it be a service manager or whatever it is, give them a path to success and tell them that day one, hey, by the way, if you do these things, this is what's in front of you at this dealership. Obviously, the retention piece with tools, that to me, that seems like an easy no-brainer. Hey, here's $7,000 to $10,000 in tools in a tool set and toolbox. If you stick around, you make it through the 2 years. Not just make it 2 years, but actually progress. Get your certifications, advance, so you're more valuable to the dealership. And we're gonna gift this tool set to you.
100%. I think when you look at the cost, it makes me laugh a little bit, because years ago I worked for Dealer Effects, and I'd spend a lot of time working with different tools to explain to service managers and service writers and everybody else how to not only sell more product, but how to actually manage that shop to make sure you weren't overselling or underselling. And it shocked me how many people that were managing shops didn't really get that. I even had a dealer, I think I talked about it in the last show, it was a Hyundai dealer. He is storing part of his own personal car collection in empty service bays. And his excuse was, well, I don't have any techs to work in that bay. I'm like, that's the most expensive parking space I've ever seen. Like, what are you doing? So
Ian, I've actually seen, something similar. What's crazy is that they'll have empty bays, and because production is down, they start charging more labor rate, and then they pay less because they've got to get that delta. They've got to make up for it, which is completely backwards. No, just hire hire more techs, increase production, pay your techs better. You can charge a lower rate, so that you're more attractive when it comes to competing against other dealerships.
Yeah, I mean, I had the pleasure of being at a dealership in Beaverton, Oregon. It's one of the largest Toyota dealers I've ever been at outside of Luongo. They had 60 service bays and 2 express oil change setups. They had two teams of technicians that compete against each other, actually, and an industrial car wash. But what surprised me the most, in addition to a very well-oiled machine that was servicing cars at scale, was the fact that they retained customers who bought the car there, in some cases 15, 20 years ago, new. Like, that was the secret to their success, was not missing anything. They were looking at every angle. And to me, to not look at that today with ownership terms stretching was crazy. But if you look at dealerships in that same region, they weren't dialed in. So I would agree that you've got to look at it and say, okay, what is it costing you? How can I, obviously attract technicians and keep them? But more importantly, what am I doing long term to identify opportunities where I can get better? And I think technicians are only part of that. Yeah, go ahead, Joe.
With respect to that, one of the most important things is you should always be recruiting, because the silver tsunami is hitting all of our dealerships. There are no more really baby boomer technicians. Even Gen Xers are starting to feel all the pain. So you've got to constantly be recruiting.
Oh, 100%. I mean, when you look at Gen X as a generation, and I'm a Gen Xer myself, how much longer can Gen Xers really work at scale? Like, do they got 10 years left? So you got to look at it and say, okay, if you're not paying attention to millennials and Gen Z and Gen Alpha, to Sandy's point, you need to be. But more importantly, if they're not choosing careers in the technician side of things, and there was a comment earlier about military members from Katie. She said reaching out to military veterans is a great way to look at that. I mean, I believe there's even some programs there to help training veterans. So if you're not looking for people already maybe technically minded or interested, you should. But I think you have to look at a little bit of everything. Go ahead, Sandy.
And if Katie is actually doing an event, so follow her and check this event out. It is geared toward veterans, because we are missing a piece of the labor pool that gets missed. I had a conversation with Katie not that long ago, and part of it is language. The technicians, what we call technicians, might be called something else in military, right? And they use different language, so they don't think that they're qualified for roles, but really they're probably overqualified. And who wouldn't want a military, boots on the ground employee, right? It fits right in with automotive culture. And
Sandy, that's where a lot of them come into. I call them apprentice lube tech, tire tech, but that's where they come in, and I get loads of them all the time. And it's just it's terrible that nobody's taking advantage of those. They keep saying, Joe, I need an A tech that is ready to hit the floor today. Okay, well, I can help you with that, but to stop the problem, let's look at some of these, apprentice lube techs. Let's look at the D and the C level guys. And they're like, yeah, okay.
I think, and I'm going to answer this, I'm going to say something really quick, because it's kind of segueing right into where we need to go, Ian. And then, we talk about where we can find different technicians, but also about how do we keep the ones that we have. And we've all alluded to it in some way, right? Like creating a culture where people want to stay, and things like that. the other thing I think that we miss sometimes, and this really came through for me with a conference I was just at. It was advertising. It was about acquiring external clients, right? And I in HR have always seen employees as your internal customers, right? Just do the same stuff that you do for your external clients for your employees, right? We talk a lot about retention when we're talking about customer retention. It is the same thing. That's all.
Thanks for that. Scott, what do you think on what works and what doesn't work? Like, what have you found that you've had that works? Obviously, we talked a little bit about that, but what have you found that doesn't work? And why? You're muted, by the way.
I'll tell you what doesn't work, and this may seem like really elementary, but it's like ignoring it, ignoring everything that's going on, putting band-aids on problems. I don't know how to say it any more clear than that. Just, you can't do nothing, ignoring the investment that has to happen, ignoring some of the fundamental cultural shifts that have to happen in a dealership. There are people that we all know that are doing this exactly the way it needs to be done. They've created these, fantastic environments. I know people in Florida who don't have a problem, who don't have an empty bay. Their technicians aren't leaving. They're paid well. They're treated well. They're happy. And when they're happy, it's, again, going back to this: take care of the troops, and the troops take care of the mission. That's something I learned at 19 years old, and I think it's again, one of the most important things that you can look at in any workplace is take care of your people, and they will take care of the mission.
And what do you think on the military side? Have you had any luck there?
As far as
recruiting military veterans?
No, but I've been on campuses that do trade schools that focus on that. I've been with dealerships that focus on it, and there are voc rehab, and there's a vocational pieces of this, so they actually can get funding for it as well. It's a little bit longer path to get to the point of where you can actually do it, but once you figure all those things out, like I think Sandy mentioned earlier about the different labels they have for like MOSs, like the MOS for a heavy diesel mechanic in the Army might not coincide with what it's called in the civilian world. So learning that and then diving into creating a path for either tying HR into it, so they're specifically targeting this. But you got to teach them where to go look.
Well, one of the easiest ways, talking about what you're reaching those people, and this goes back to my background in marketing, and I always tell my dealer clients this: you need to advertise a discount in service for any military, active or retired. That should be something on all your advertising. It should be on your website, very big and bold. Hey, we love our veterans. Come in today. You reach out to the veterans, you show them love, they're going to show you love back. And when they're coming in there, then in the waiting lounge, you should have something up there to say, hey, we are looking to hire, and mention them specifically, veterans bonus. Do something like that. You want to focus to them. Reaching them is very difficult to do, but they're everywhere. Everybody knows a veteran. Everybody has a brother, a sister, a neighbor that was either in the service or is actively in the service. And you let them know, hey, you're looking for something to do when you get out. Hey, this company's right here. But then also put something up on that wall that says, hey, we offer a training program. And talk about the training program. If you haven't started an apprentice program at your dealership, you are making a huge mistake. You need to start doing that right away, like we talked about, where you're taking some of your top people that are eventually going to be working their way out of the dealership and have them start training the younger people. Start training the veterans. Give them the opportunity. They're looking for a job, and you need to just put that out big and bold in all your marketing.
Yeah, and if anyone's looking for more information, Katie, you can definitely reach out to her. The information's on the feed. Definitely check it out if you had some questions there. I had another person comment that they'd like information on the veteran efforts. So if you're interested in that, Katie is the person looking for that.
Yes,
but
also looking for it's really inexpensive. I think somewhere around $200 to sponsor a vet to go to.
Oh, okay.
So anybody who's watching, reach out to Katie.
Yeah, thanks for that. So we're up to almost out of time now. So let's talk about final thoughts. What are your takeaways after answering all the questions today from everybody else? And what do you think is a takeaway for a dealer who's watching who says, "Hey, I've got to get my ass in gear and do some of this stuff"? What's your key takeaway? Let's start with Joe.
One of the big hurdles is for dealers to finally realize how important a technician is with respect to income. A typical mentality is if a sales guy is making 100 to 150,000, we pull you in for a pay plan change to there. And like I said, I actually have visited with and have verified there are technicians out there making $200,000 a year. They're ballerinas. They know how to just jump through and get stuff done and know how to do it. So you got to get your head around that. And I have dealers that are paying $90 to $100 a flat rate hour with $50,000 plus sign-on bonuses because they understand that they'll do that. And of course, then when other people say, "Yeah, Joe, I'll go ahead and do a sign-on bonus, $500." Well, it's probably not going to be something that a technician that's already working is going to be interested in, because what we have found is that you need to be able to improve. If you're going to recruit a technician from someplace else, you need to be able to show them that they're going to make about 20% more, or just leave it alone, because it's just not going to work.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, evaluate pay plans, I think, is definitely a show we should do in the future for technicians, Peter. Just so you know, we should put the note on that. Sandy, what do you think?
Well, one, for final thoughts. One, do something. Like, don't continue doing the same thing that you've been doing and expecting some new miracle to happen. So try different things. There's tons of 20 groups. I'm sure that there are service 20 groups, right? Check out your local resources, right? Your local career workforce readiness in your county, in your state. I know Florida has a bunch of stuff, right? There's actually free money often. Understand that there's going to be hoops that you have to run through to get those. A lot of pesky paperwork. Find an admin who's willing to do that, right? Build an employee value proposition where people are going to want to stay, and this will be for your entire store. All the things that really I talk about all the time, but most of all, just do something. Try different things, just like in Matt, right? You come up with an idea, ask your employees, bring HR in to do those surveys, right? Ask your employees what they want, try something. If that doesn't work, try something else. don't, so mainly just do something. And I do love the idea of checking out the local resources. It's important. There's stuff available there that you may not know. I talked about in the beginning, I believe that because of boomers actually really retiring now, we have a transfer problem. So, when you have using technology, right? I'm working on something with somebody about an easier way so that the master tech doesn't have to slow down, because that's no fun for him. Compensate the people who, if you have an apprenticeship program, make it worthwhile for the person who's training the new person coming in, right? And use technology too.
And maybe bring the boomers back if they're interested to pass on that knowledge to the millennial. I mean, I don't know on the patient side there, but maybe that works. I don't know.
We should call Justin Bieber and see if he can come up with a new song for bringing boomers back and bringing
Scott, what do you think?
Okay, so started out saying that this is math and people. I stick to it. The thing that it's these dealerships have to stop ignoring the simple math, which is what an empty bay cost them. it costs them tens of thousands of dollars every month. And the ROI on any type of investment that happens, taking some of that capital that you have and invest into the fixed op side of the world, whether it be tools and tool sets, whether it be paying back or helping to pay back tuition for people that stay. We didn't talk about that. I think, Joe or Sandy, one of the two mentioned what a typical trade school costs these days. And you're right. It's like, I think it was $60,000 or $70,000 was mentioned. When I first started with Sonic, the average private school on both aviation and automotive was about $40,000 for a school, a well-known school like a UTI or an Aviation Institute of Maintenance. So make the investment. Stop playing coy with the reality of what an empty bay cost. Make the investment, create a culture, and obviously the biggest thing is when you do all these things and you fix that part of the equation, it's really easy to go and market to all these 12-year-old kids in school. Start early, get them aware of what's in front of them if they want to take this as a career path.
Thanks for that. And thanks everyone for all the input. Peter, final word to you.
Hey, we are just thank everybody. Thank you for all your participation today. We are in the process of adding a lot of new content to the AutoHub site. Some of those things are coming over some of the articles that I've written for Fixed Ops Magazine and things like that. So I've got several articles about cultivating technicians and how to set up an apprentice program at your dealership. Those are currently available on the cactussky.com site under articles, but we will be adding them to the new AutoHub show. But if you're looking for some information that can help you get the ball started, feel free to check out those articles. And as always, if there's anything we could ever do to help you, don't hesitate to reach out.
Yeah, and Joe, if you want to share links, we can definitely talk to you about that. Thanks very much, everybody, for your time today. Have a great week, and do something is my takeaway from today. Even if it's the wrong thing, at least you're trying. Bye for now.
Take an effort.
Exactly.
And always be recruiting.
Exactly.
Thank you for helping the industry get better today live.